Hi everyone, my name is Ruby Powers with Powers Law Group, and there's been lots of changes going on in this early 2025. So we wanted to give you an update on different deportations and knowing your rights and legal options, and just giving an update in general. My name is Ruby Powers. I'm a board certified immigration attorney with Powers Law Group, and it's both based out of Houston. And we'll just go ahead and get started. It's a full service firm, and we help people all over the world on U.S. immigration matters. So there was a sort of a campaign promise, a focus of the Trump administration to expand deportations, and we've seen a lot of changes in this direction over the last 4 months in this place. So it was expanding expedited removals and trying to utilize the Alien Enemy Act of 1798, and just making a lot of changes in this space, that because we were wondering, how are you going to try to accomplish this with the rules that we had before this administration went into place. Alien Enemy Act allows the government to detain and deport nationals from hostile countries during wartime, but the Trump administration invoked this law to expedite deportations of Venezuelan migrants and labeling them as a threat. Critics argue the application is unconstitutional. There have been lost cases striking this as not allowed to use this as, because we're not in wartime conditions. And so that has been some progress in that respect. There's been a lot of legal challenges. The courts blocked the deportation of Venezuelan migrants without proper notice. Judges questioned the use of Alien Enemy Act, and Supreme Court emphasized the need for due process in deportation cases. We're even hearing a lot of other judges and other speakers out there speaking about the importance of due process. And really, we've been seeing this whole challenge of the rulings are highlighting the judiciary's role in upholding constitutional protections. Expedited removal allows immigration officers to deport individuals without a hearing if they cannot prove that they've been in the U.S. for at least 2 years. But there's been an interpretation that's making the expansion of expedited removal even more expanded than we had seen before. And so that is something of concern for us as well. Because we've been hearing even of reports, even just recently, of cases being dismissed, and then the government invoking expedited removal and picking people up who were at immigration court just recently, as of last week in San Diego, I believe. But we've heard reports of this around the country as well. Immigrant individuals do have rights to remain silent, to legal representation, protection against unlawful searches and seizures, a right to a hearing. In most cases, there's what is legally supposed to happen, and there's what's happening, and there's a bit of a disconnect in some cases. So it's important to be aware of your rights. It's important to have an experienced immigration attorney on your side that's available to assist you as needed. We talked about this before: developing a family emergency plan, having a trusted individual to care for children, dependents, having your documents accessible. I mean, it's not the same exact thing, but like here in Houston, where we have hurricanes, having documents prepared, have a prepared plan, have a go bag, having gas in your car, like being ready in the anticipation of something happening, or even having your estate planning documents in order so that if needed, you would be able to be prepared for an emergency. So proactive measures are important. There's different organizations out there, but really a lot of the nonprofits have been hurt, and their funding has been cut. There's the ACLU, National Immigrant Justice Center, a lot of different groups like that. And we know that this has a huge impact on families, the concern and the stress of this uncertainty. We understand that. We're trying to do the best we can to help the families in the community as much as possible. What's important is that the judiciary is serving as a check on executive actions. The courts have blocked policies that violate constitutional rights. We're still waiting to hear some results from Supreme Court hearings for their decisions to come out. Judges have required the government to provide notice and hearings before deportation, and legal challenges have upheld protections for vulnerable populations. And so that has been a success for due process, and we're very grateful for that. Advocacy groups, which we've been parts of, have been out there to try to raise awareness in communities And there have been public demonstrations and campaigns to affect change. I think it's important to know what your rights are and have a plan with your an immigration attorney, maybe a couple, have a second opinion, know what your rights are, be prepared, have a couple of plans, plan A, B, C, even if that means maybe considering another country temporarily or permanently. What are your options? And we know that there's a lot of mixed status homes, and these are of concern. The mass deportations raise international concerns of violation of human rights treaties, risk of individuals returning to countries where they face harm. We've seen a few cases where people were lawfully sent to countries that they were not citizens of. And this definitely brings concerns to compliance with international law. So we cannot say this enough, the importance of having legal representation. If you're in a bind, it'll be easier to get through to an attorney that's had a consultation, even if you hadn't hired them, that knows your case, that has your documents and information, than somebody who's never talked to you ever before. It's sort of a little bit like an insurance policy, but it'd be even better if you hired them and had them helping you work on whatever you possibly could. So there's a lot of changes happening. We are producing content. We are consuming content. We are going to liaison meetings. We are on WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups. We are talking to other attorneys and trying to get all that updated information as much as possible because there's a lot of changes. So we want to uphold the rule of law and respect due process as much as possible. And the power in sharing information, even if we have to share with the media or get information out to in our webinars and our social media, is to be able to get that information out there and help be a voice for those and of all the crazy things that have been sort of happening recently. Including even notices of intent to fine for 1.8 million. We're seeing reports of that, and we've seen those with our own very eyes as well. So we're seeing some reopening of terminated cases. We're hearing reports of it. We haven't had any yet, but we've heard reports. We've also seen a recalendering of administratively closed cases. We've seen we are hearing reports of a lot of different things. So maybe they might happen in one part of the country, and then there might be on like a pilot program and then eventually unveiled around the country. So that's why we take look to see what's happening around the country as potentially coming to our side at some point. So this is something to be considered if a terminated case was to be reopened, recalendared, re-NTA'd, now is to appear. What would you do? What would your options be? Those are things to consider. We talked about the expansion of expedited removal. It can be applied to undocumented individuals anywhere in the U.S. who cannot prove continuous presence for at least 2 years, but there has been an expansion of that interpretation even further, of allowing people who've been here more than 2 years but might have been in proceedings. It is quite an how would you say, an inventive definition of expedited removal. Is yet to be litigated at this moment, but this is something to be a concern for. So we're hearing reports of administrative closed cases being recalendared, termination cases being reopened, dismissed cases being reopened. We're also have no prosecutorial discretion at this time, and so very difficult to get continuances, to get motions to reopen, things like that. Anyway, lots of changes happening. We're recording this around the end of May 2025, just because things can change all the time. So this is the latest from around May 27, 2025. If you have any questions, please reach us at all these different places: Facebook, X, Blue Sky, TikTok. We put regular content, Instagram. We have a newsletter that comes out in English and Spanish every other week. And we recently had a webinar on best practice for affirmative asylum interview, which is really important because we have a lot of interviews being scheduled right now. This webinar will be also in Spanish, and we're also going to talk about navigating the perm labor process. So thanks so much for watching. Let us know if you have any questions. You can reach us at 713-589-2085. Hope you have a great day.